when someone asks about your childhood and your mind just goes blank, not because it was terrible, not because nothing happened, but because somewhere along the way, entire pieces of it feel missing. Like between being a kid and becoming a teenager, you quietly skipped whole chapters. That gap, that's what we're exploring today. Because sometimes childhood doesn't end with a dramatic moment, it fades out quietly. It can look like cooking dinner for your siblings before you even hit double digits, or stepping in as the emotional translator between adults, or learning how to read the mood in a room before you learned how to read books. Nothing loud, nothing obvious, but something shifted. And here's the part people rarely talk about. That version of you, the one who had to grow up early, never really left. It still shapes how you think, how you react, how you make decisions, even now. Picture a child around 8 years old, suddenly becoming the most responsible person in the house, not by choice, by necessity. Something changes in that moment. In psychology, this is often called parentification, when a child takes on roles meant for adults, but the term feels a bit too clean. It doesn't fully capture what it's like to be small and carry something that heavy. Research, including work by Lisa M. Hooper, shows that these children often appear unusually mature. But here's the important nuance: that maturity isn't quite what it seems. It's adaptation, a nervous system learning to stay alert, to anticipate, to manage stress as a baseline. What felt normal to you was often a form of pressure. And that pattern doesn't just disappear, it evolves. Many people who grew up this way become highly skilled in certain areas. You read emotions instantly. You can sense tension before anyone says a word. You anticipate needs without being asked. You solve problems quickly, almost automatically. Those abilities feel like strengths. And they are, but they come with a cost, because the same system that helped you survive then keeps running now. And here's where it gets interesting. People who had to grow up too soon often struggle not with big challenges, but with small, simple things. Asking for help, resting without guilt, letting themselves be playful. Those can feel uncomfortable, even unsafe, because early on you learned something powerful. Things only stay stable if you hold them together. So you didn't just learn a lesson. You built your identity around it, and that identity still operates in the background. In adulthood, this often looks familiar. You become the reliable one, the one people turn to in a crisis. You handle things, you fix things. You may find yourself drawn to people who need support, not because something is wrong with you, but because being needed once felt like connection, like love. Relationships can feel complicated. Vulnerability might feel exposed, unnatural, because back then you didn't have the luxury of falling apart. So even now, in safe environments, there's a part of you that stays guarded. You might notice a pattern: being drawn to emotionally unavailable people. And before you judge yourself for that, consider this: familiarity feels safe, even when it isn't. If giving was the norm, then receiving can feel unfamiliar, sometimes even uncomfortable, like waiting for something to go wrong. There's also a subtle relationship with control, not control in an obvious sense, but a deep need to manage outcomes, to think ahead, to prepare, because unpredictability once meant risk. So now you plan, you overanalyze, you run through endless scenarios before making even small decisions. Others might label it perfectionism or anxiety, but underneath it is a learned response. A child who discovered that letting go had consequences. And yes, it's exhausting. That deep, persistent tiredness that sleep doesn't fix. It's not weakness. It's what happens when your system has been on for far too long, when rest was never truly safe. There's also a complicated relationship with success. You achieve things, you move forward, but it rarely feels like enough. There's always a quiet push: do more, be better, prove it, because at some point your worth became tied to what you could provide. And the world often reinforces this. It rewards productivity, independence, self-sufficiency. From the outside, it looks admirable, but few people ask what it took to become that way. Another thing happens over time. You become fluent in emotional awareness. You can manage tension in a group, diffuse conflict early, keep others comfortable, even when you're overwhelmed inside. And often you don't even notice you're doing it. It's automatic, but unlike breathing, this doesn't restore you. It drains you. So you can be surrounded by people and still feel unseen. Not lonely in the obvious sense, but unseen in the effort you're constantly making. And asking for recognition can feel strangely difficult, almost like you're failing at the one role you've always played. So, what do you do with all of this? How do you process something that doesn't look like a single event, but more like a pattern over time? The first step is acknowledging it. There's something real to process here. You may need to grieve, not in a dramatic way, but in an honest one. You're recognizing the parts of childhood you didn't fully get to experience, the version of you who could have been messy, dependent, carefree. That matters. And acknowledging it doesn't make you ungrateful, it makes you aware. The second step is learning something new. That being needed is not the same as being valued, that your worth is not defined by how much you carry or how well you manage everything. You don't have to earn rest. You don't have to prove your right to simply exist. You're allowed to pause, to not know, to receive. And maybe this is the most unfamiliar part. You're allowed to learn how to be supported, even if it feels new, even if it feels uncomfortable at first. Because in many ways, you're just starting that process. And that's okay. That younger version of you did something remarkable. They adapted, they held things together, they showed resilience in ways most people never see, but they don't have to carry everything anymore. They can step back. You don't have to live in survival mode forever. It's safe to soften, safe to let go, little by little. And maybe the real question is this: if you didn't have to hold everything together anymore, what would change? If this resonated with you, take a moment to like the video, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments. I'd really like to hear your perspective.